share everything with you guys. So, all right, well, I'll get kicked off. Hopefully everyone is okay, and well done for turning up to this webinar, even though it is your Easter holidays. I've got a really exciting guest, Max, who we'll introduce in a second, who I get on really well with personally. And I think he's really a good guy to have, particularly if maybe we've got less numbers than we would normally, because it means that hopefully you guys can have good interaction with Max and actually ask a few different questions, because sometimes it's so jam-packed on these webinars that you don't get to ask maybe as many questions as you'd like. But we're going to be focusing today on entry-level roles into management, and this is sponsored and powered by Pret, who Max works for. Like I say, you know, Pret are really obviously interested in making sure that we're continuing to educate young people across the UK. So it's great that Max and Pret are able to help us out today. Just a few housekeeping things, then how to communicate, then we'll go straight into it really. One of these sessions today is just myself and Max. I'll be asking him different questions, and you guys will hopefully be asking lots of questions too. So it's a real Q&A, which means we'll get quite a lot of depth out of the session. How you can communicate and be a part of this, because we do this for you. You've got the chat box, so on your Zoom screen, if you're on your mobile phone, by the way, it's a little bit different. You can't potentially interact, but if you're on your laptop and you can see the screens, the chat box is potentially what you need just for anything that's not a question, if you ever need to write anything like I've just asked at the beginning. But if you do have a question, put it in the Q&A box, and then I'll get to those questions as we go along. Any question, just feel free to ask, and I'm sure Max will back me up with that one. And then if you do want to raise your hand at any time at all, because it's a Q&A, it's a fluid webinar today, and there's no like boring content from me. So just raise your hand and I will get you in touch with Max and myself, and we'll have a chat. So you guys know who I am. I obviously started Pathway, and I've actually continued to do these webinars for the last 2 weeks. I was in teaching for a brief time, and I really enjoyed doing them. And I really enjoy like having interactions with everyone on the webinars. Lots of you have added me on LinkedIn and stuff like that. So we had a LinkedIn session. So I think that's really good. And hopefully we can do even more moving forward through the weeks. I am doing an Instagram live actually on Friday at 2 o'clock. It's Good Friday. So like none of my team are going to be working. But as a business owner, I always seem to be working. And so I want to just make sure I've got a 2 o'clock slot, and you can ask me anything. And I'm going to do a bit of a summary about the last 2 weeks of content that we've been doing. So if you don't follow us already, at Pathway CTM on Instagram, and get involved and ask some questions. But I just want to hand over to Max with a top line introduction to start with. So Max, just looking into your title there, could you just maybe explain that title a little bit in terms of what your role is at the moment?
Certainly can. So my shorter version of my name is Max. My real name is Massimiliano. As it says there, so I work for Pret A Manger, and I'm a recruitment advisor, but I recruit apprentices and I recruit managers into our business externally. So apprentices, that's anybody from 16 and above who wants to do an apprenticeship, a degree level one with Pret, and also managers who are from other businesses who want to come and work for Pret.
Great. Okay, so it's your responsibility to make sure that not only apprentices are coming in, but managers as well. What sort of managers? What would they be doing, Max? In the store, is that all?
Yeah, in stores. So I always look after the retail side. So I always look at shop side. When we're talking about managers in Pret, we have kitchen managers who look after our kitchens, obviously, because every Pret shop has a kitchen. You may not see it, you may not know it exists, but fresh food is prepared every day on site. So you have kitchen managers, and then you have the front of house manager who looks after the customer area and the tills and where the food is displayed. And they both work as assistants below a general manager who's in charge of the whole store. So I look after recruiting general managers who will come into our business, and kitchen managers and front of house managers as well.
And just in case people don't know, could you just explain what Pret do and where they are, and a little bit about the company, if that's okay?
What do Pret do? We prepare freshly made food to grab and go food. So sandwiches, salads, wraps. We do hot food as well, and we do croissants, and we do coffee as well. So it's good, delicious, tasty, clean food with organic coffee. We produce it. We sell it in our shops. We've got over 400 shops across the whole of the UK. We're in other countries as well, which makes us a multinational business. We do delivery service as well for food, which is being ramped up more and more in this current situation, for sure. All of our shops are closed at the moment, but we're about to open some kitchens just so that we can make food for homeless people and for NHS hospitals and doctors and nurses, all for free.
Brilliant. And Max, a few questions that I'm going to be asking you today are around, like, for example, you've let me know in the past sometimes how much money Pret stores earn, and in terms of the management role and the assistant management role, there can be a progression through the apprenticeship, like how many staff and what they're involved in terms of rotas and how much the financing behind it, which would be really interesting. But we've just had one question come up here. What apprenticeships do Pret offer? If you want to go for that, just from the start as well.
Certainly can. Basically, what we offer is we offer what we call a degree apprenticeship. We want people to come in at level 2, which is the basic level, entry level. And at level 2, you'd be working in our shops, and you can learn how to work in the kitchen to make all of our sandwiches and salads, all of our food products. You work behind the till to serve customers. You look after the customer area. You learn how to make coffees. And then you can specialize whether you want to be a hot chef making hot food, and there's a lot of hot food to make. Soups, porridges, croissants, mac and cheese, all of those types of food. Or you can choose to be a barista, which concentrates on the coffee side, and you look after the coffee area, the milk orders, the coffee orders. Or you can work in the kitchen, looking after all of the cold food production, and the ordering, the fridge management, out-of-date food, making sure that it's not in the shop. That's where you start at level 2, and we want people to grow from level 2 up to level 3, which is then you become a supervisor, leading one of the teams, whether it be back of house in the kitchen or front of house in the shop. And then you'd work up to level 4, 5, and 6, which is where you start as an assistant manager going on to general manager. And that 4, 5, and 6 level is a degree. So that's a degree in business management. Levels 2 and 3, they're hospitality apprenticeships for the retail sector.
And it's so interesting because I want us to go through your story because it's quite a unique one and why I've picked you for this webinar. But then also we can then look at what happens with the apprenticeships, because what you've done in your career, Max, the young people now coming in underneath you can do the same thing through maybe an easier route for an apprenticeship. But could you just talk through how it started, maybe from sixth form for you in terms of your entry into work?
Yeah, so when I was younger, you'll probably notice across the webinar, I like to talk, so I like to interact with people. I got a job at Starbucks. It was a brand new company in the UK at the time. So I went to work at Starbucks because I wanted to work with people and I love coffee. So I worked as a barista. I used to make coffee and drinks. I grew up in Wimbledon and I went to school there. So during Wimbledon tennis, we used to open at 5:15 in the morning, serving hundreds of customers in the first hour, just making coffees. And I used to work at a hotel as well. So Chris doesn't know this, but I used to work part-time at Starbucks and I worked part-time at a hotel as well on reception and as a chambermaid as well. And I worked at a sports club part-time behind the bar. And I loved it. That was when I was at sixth form, and that gave me pocket money. That gave me experience as well in dealing with people, in working, and learning how to manage your rhythms and your time. Time management was really important back then, still is now. And then whilst I was at university, every time I was on holiday from uni, I would work in Starbucks and the hotel to get extra money to support me through my terms and pay for my living and some of my other expenses.
And just to pick up on that then, Max, I just want to bring it back to school. So it was Wimbledon College, wasn't it?
Yeah, Wimbledon
so
College.
Normal comprehensive school,
Absolutely.
Right? And where were you before that, I wonder? Or was it?
Before Wimbledon College.
Was that just for the last 2 years, or was it?
No, I was there from the age of 13 onwards.
I won't ask about your primary school then. We've done CV workshops on this. Matt, I wouldn't think that on your CV you have your primary school listed, but you would have your secondary school potentially.
Yes.
Yeah, there we go. Just reinforcing some of the earlier content. So look, it says at the minute that only a quarter of young people have a part-time job. Like, when you're trying to get your foot in the door and trying to get that dream career, what's your view on part-time jobs versus the stress of grades and how you see it across, young apprentices and people coming through?
Part-time jobs, I think, are invaluable. I'll champion them because I had them myself. And when you were 16, when I was 16, that was kind of thing you did because it gave you a bit of money in your pocket. So you learned how to manage your own finances, but it taught you a lot of skills as well about how to work with other people. So working in teams, but also about time management. You become responsible for yourself. You have to be at work on time. You have to show up. You don't take sick days, or you don't decide when you do and do not want to go to work. You got to shift, you got to go, you got to turn up and you got to perform. So it teaches you a different way. School is great, obviously, because you're learning the educational side, but this is putting it into practice and you start to make connections with people, but you start to be able to make mistakes at work at a young age because you will make mistakes. And mistakes are really important to make because you have to learn from them. Nobody is perfect and nobody will go through life without making mistakes. The earlier you start to make them, the better you'll be and the quicker you will grow.
Yeah, I like that. The earlier you start to make mistakes, the better you'll be. I do like that. And then
sure.
university, then there's a lot of people who we speak to at Parvo who are really obsessed and love languages and always interested in how they can use them in the workplace.
Absolutely.
Talk us through why you wanted to go to uni and what you wanted to study and where you went.
I went to Exeter University and I studied French and Italian. One of the reasons why I chose Exeter was A, because they'd have me, and B, because it was the best university in the country for French and actually Italian at the time. And I believe it still is. Why did I want to go to university? If I give you the honest answer, I didn't. My parents wanted me to go to university. They didn't have an education, and for them it was important that both their sons got a degree. So I went to uni and I was looking forward to the social side as well as the study side. But my day was different, Chris, uni. It was only £1,000 a year tuition fee, and that was new. I was the second year of it, and it was a smaller loan. I chose to go to uni because my parents wanted me to, and it seemed like it was good and it was going to be a great life experience. I chose languages because that was what I was good at. Academically, I was great at languages. Both my parents are Italian, so Italian was pretty easy.
Okay, that's good. And then you went and did your languages.
Yeah.
And then why aren't you now in a company in a big multinational working on your languages and being that person that maybe you thought you would be?
Good question. Well, so when I looked at it and I thought, well, I could do languages and I'd love to be an interpreter or a translator. You know, when you see those meetings from like the EU and they're talking to the prime ministers and there's somebody in the background doing the translation for you. That's a lot more difficult to do than you think. I went to uni and it's a 4-year degree. Now, in my 4 years, when I started uni, it was you get this degree, you can go on and do translation, interpreting, and all of this kind of stuff. When I finished my degree 4 years later, we looked for those jobs and they went, no, you now need a master's degree to be able to do that because it's become more competitive. More people have done languages degree and there's more competitive nature to the business. So you need a master's. At that point, Chris, I was like, I'm out. I'm done. I'm finished with education. I will be honest. University for me was great for one level. On one side, but not great on the other because academically I wasn't right for university and not a university of that high caliber anyway.
And what advice would you have for those who do want to use languages, be a translator, interpreter? But did they have to literally go to like top uni and then do your masters to even get your foot in the door? Is that right?
I think nowadays, yes. And actually, once you get your languages degree, you can go to you actually go to a school where you learn about translating and interpreting. I can tell you now, knowing a language is not good enough to know how to translate or interpret that language.
Wow.
You really have to immerse yourself into it and understand the idioms and like the phrases that we wouldn't know. You only know from growing up there, but also because it has to be done so quickly, especially on the spot translation, it is extremely difficult and you have to be damn good, especially when you think of the meetings that you're in or the things that you translate. You can't make mistakes. So it is high pressure. I would say that the best part of my degree learning the languages was I got to live in the north of Italy for a year. That was my Erasmus year abroad. That probably taught me more than anything else out of my 3 years because I had to go and live in a country where the language wasn't my first language. I had to rent a flat. I had to pay for my own shopping. I had to integrate with people. I had to make friends, and that was hard. But I honestly believe that you can do that anyway without going to university and spending all that money. If you want to go and learn a language, go and live in a country for a year. You'll pick it up very quickly.
That's so interesting. Okay, so now we've left university. Where are we? Where's the money coming from now? Where are we now, Max?
I got lots of offers to go and work at places like PwC, KPMG, Ernst & Young, and that was okay, but it didn't excite me, and it wasn't to do with languages. It was all finance and law. So I actually took a sidestep and I went to work for a big multinational. Well, it's the largest conglomerate in the world called Halliburton, KBR Halliburton, and I worked there. And this is, I don't know if you know this, I worked there to pay so that I could go motor racing because I used to race
yes, that's one of your hobbies, and you still do that today, don't you, Max?
I do a little bit. I don't do as much as I want to, but I'm going to start ramping up a bit more now that we've got time and I've got a bit more money.
And that's not a road bike; it's a proper motorbike. Is that?
Well, so what I was doing when I was younger was go-karts and cars. So I raced in a similar series to Lewis Hamilton. So
Wow. Okay. Oh, so, and that obviously costs a lot of money. That's why you went to go and earn the money to keep your hobby going.
absolutely. And
Okay.
it was part time. It was a contract basis. So they would allow me certain days off because I needed to travel during the week, so that I could do that. That was why I did that. So I chased that dream and I came close. Okay. But then afterwards, I went to work in the City of London. So I worked in finance at the City of London Magistrates Court. Great job. Fantastic. Didn't excite me. Not my bag at all. It was good money. It wasn't what I wanted to do, and it wasn't what I was good at. So I found myself at the age of, I think I was 25. I had to think about, what do I actually want to do in life? What excites me? What actually makes me jump out of bed in the morning and go, I want to do this? Because working in finance was not it.
And was that, and we're doing some webinars with Alan Nanovari, a big law firm from May. And apparently, and we just had one last week as well, boys typically go in and just follow the money being a corporate lawyer, but maybe they really don't enjoy it. Is that what you did? You just thought money, and then you realize, actually, I don't enjoy it.
Yeah, I thought money. I thought that's what I needed. I needed money. And I thought, okay, what's going to pay me really well? And I found my way in. And I was doing a few different types of finance jobs, and one of them was paying me extremely good money. So I went to work for a firm. It was a hire firm, and we used to sell tools to the business trade, but I was the sales manager. So I was managing all of the sales to huge building sites, and we'd hire out like 1,000 JCBs, 10,000 drills and screwdrivers. It was crazy. That was paying me more money than I earn now. And I did it for a month and a half, and I hated every single second of it. And that was when I realized money is not everything.
What age did you realize that, Matt?
26.
Wow. Okay. So 26. Okay. So and then what direction did you go in next?
Well, I sat down and I spoke to my brother, and I said, look, what genuinely excites me is being around people, talking to people, being in a team, and I love coffee. And he was like, well, you worked at Starbucks, and you've done all of this part-time work at Starbucks, and you've done the barista role, and you know how to make coffees, you know what the shops are like. You've been there since 1999, and back then it was now 2004, 2005 it was, I was 26. And he's like, you've been there for so many years, and you've done a lot of the roles, and you know that business inside out. So why didn't you just go for manager? So I did. So I applied to their manager program, and that was how I then became an assistant manager for Starbucks.
Wow. Okay. Cool. So you went back to where you already had the work experience from
Absolutely.
Starbucks,
Yeah.
and then you managed to skip the queue and go straight into management.
Well, so I joined as an assistant manager, but the thing that allowed me to join as an assistant manager was the fact that I'd worked for Starbucks for so many years and done all of the roles below assistant manager. They were like, well, we don't need to train you on everything because you already know it. And I'd stopped doing the part-time work not that long ago from Starbucks. They were like, there's no point you coming back in at a level that you've already been at. We'll promote you to the next level. We know you've got the knowledge. We know you've worked for us for so many years. And it was really having that behind me that allowed me to then go on to the assistant manager pathway. It was really scary at the time. So I was like, assistant manager, I'm 26. I don't even know if I can manage a shop. And I was given a small shop of my own, but I was given full training, 3 months worth.
And I'm just going to pause you there, Max, for a couple of questions. One, bringing back to the language. Did you enjoy learning another language?
Loved it. Absolutely loved it. Really difficult. But interestingly, when I was learning another language, it's not like you don't just go to learn how to speak it and how to write it. I had to learn the literature. So it was like doing an English degree, but in a different language. So I studied medieval French and Italian literature, Renaissance Italian and French literature, Renaissance art, Italian art, French philosophy. You learn so much about a language and a culture and a people, and you learn so much about their history. Yeah, it was great. It was fantastic.
And it's interesting. The next question is a very good one. And do feel free to raise your hand at any moment, guys, because we'll let you into the conversation. Max said to me at the beginning of the session that, patience and time is something that he really wants to get out of this session in terms of it's not going to happen straight away for everybody. And look, I'm 31, and a lot of people that I'm, in my network, potentially they're in still a job, even at 31, where they're not enjoying it, but it pays really well. So why it's interesting to look at that for Max is 26, I think, is actually quite early to decide where your love is going to be. I mean, we see some apprentices that we work with, some people who go into grad schemes who just get it straight away, and fair play to them. But I just think it's very interesting what Max is saying there. And the question here is, how can you change your career path if you're not happy with what you're doing? but you've already got a degree in something?
That's a really good question, actually, because I know that a lot of people get hung up with this, but I'm going to say something maybe a little bit shocking. It's kind of irrelevant because it's not about the degree subject that you have. And also so let's look at both of them. If you have a degree, you've gone through a whole process of living and learning at university where you have to learn for yourself. Like at university, nobody sits down to teach you. You sit down to discuss, but then during the week, it's like, okay, next week we're going to discuss the next bit. You've got to go away and study it. Then you come back. So it's not like school where let's study this today and you get taught it. No, you've got to go and teach yourself. So that's kind of the difference. And you have to become independent, and it teaches you to expand your brain to learn and use. But that's on an academic sense. It gives you that capability. That doesn't mean that just because you've got a degree in languages, it doesn't mean that I can't learn anything else in life. Of course I can, because I know how to go through the process of learning, as long as I put the right material in front of me. And the thing that I think some people get hung up with is, how can you change your career path if you're not happy? It's easy. Stop doing what makes you unhappy and start doing what makes you happy. Look for the jobs, look for what's available, look for what's around. It's an easy thing to do, but again, it's that point of patience, because you might have a really well paid job now and you think, oh, it's really well paid, but I hate it or I don't enjoy it. That's great. Then the money becomes irrelevant because you're not going to enjoy anything. But then you look at the thing that you want to change to and you think, but that's less pay. Yes, but it's less pay now, but not in the future. But it's worth moving to something that's less paid, that with money that you can survive on. Survive is the important point, not live a lavish lifestyle. Survive on, and you grow in something that you love. And when you love what you do, you will grow more quickly and you will advance and you will have a better career. If you do
And
something you don't enjoy, you won't.
and you've got life experience, Max. Is that true? It's not all about, because we always think it's about the money, don't we? But is it generally when you find something that you love doing? Like, do you feel like you're going to work? I mean, like, just give us a bit of an insight.
Love
Really?
it. Yeah, like totally. And I'll give you some honest answers. So when I joined Pret, I joined because I'd spent many years at Starbucks and I ran shops. And then I wanted to change. I was like, well, I'm done. I've done the coffee industry. I want a bigger shop. Starbucks is a great, but they don't make as much money. The shops don't make as much money as Pret. So I was like, I want something bigger. And I looked at Pret and it's like, I really love the company. It's British. I love its values. They've got kitchens. They really make a lot of money. There's great potential there. So I went to Pret and I became a kitchen manager. I'd never managed a kitchen before in my life, but because I'd already had management experience, they put me into kitchen, taught me everything about a kitchen. I went through a training program, the same one that our apprentices will go through when they join. And I learned everything about Pret and how to run a kitchen. And then I was running kitchens for them. That was great for a few years. And I'm one of these guys that really likes to improve and keep moving. And then I got a chance to move into our head office and work in recruitment. So recruiting team members into Pret to go and work in all of our shops. And I love that because you get to meet people every day, different people every day, and you're helping them. Somebody comes in front of you and says, these are the skills that I've got. And I think I'm great for your company. And you look at them and you say, yeah, you are great because you got good passion. You're a good person. You want to work in a team and you want to work hard and you want to progress. Come join our company because we need people like you. So I'm servicing my shops. I'm giving them what they want, and I'm giving that person a chance at a career, not just a job, a career. That makes you feel so great because you're doing something so useful. So it didn't matter if I was getting up at 6 or 5 in the morning. I love it. And it's the same with this now. So working with apprentices is even better because we're talking to young people who are trying to work out, where is my career going? What do I do? Do I do university? Do I do an apprenticeship? What's out there for me? I get up every morning and doing this kind of stuff is amazing. It just gives you energy.
No, it's brilliant. So kitchen manager at Pret. Then what was the step after that?
Step after that, well, I started with a small kitchen, and then it was literally bigger and bigger kitchens. So if I give you an example, Chris, I joined. My first kitchen was Notting Hill. We used to take that shop would take about £20,000 a week.
Wow.
And I was putting that kitchen. That's a lot of money for a small shop to take £20,000 a week. The biggest Starbucks coffee shop I ever ran used to take £14,000 a week.
So how come Pret's earning more than Starbucks, out of interest?
So because Pret sells food,
Right.
the food is more expensive. So 25% of Pret, around 25% of Pret's coffee sales is coffee, whereas the rest is food. Starbucks is the other way around. The majority of it is coffee. But if you think about it, you'll pay maybe £2 or £3 for a coffee, and then you probably wouldn't buy a sandwich at Starbucks. But when you walk into Pret, you'll probably pay £4 or £5 for a sandwich. So every transaction is worth more money. So even if you have the same amount of customers, Pret will always make more money. And I had a small
And
shop.
Starbucks would know that, would they? About like, I
Yeah.
mean, are they direct competitors or
No.
no? Okay,
On the coffee side, yes. On the food side, no,
fine.
because we do fresh food, prepared fresh every day, and we do coffee as well. They do coffee, and they sell sandwiches that are already pre-packaged. So they kind of are there as a sideline competitor, um, but we kind of work well together. You'll
Yeah.
always see Starbucks and Pret kind of near each other.
Right. Okay. Okay. So now you're working in the slightly bigger kitchens,
Yeah.
and then kitchen manager. How many years were you doing that? And then what was after that?
Kitchen manager, I think I did for about 2.5 years.
Hmm.
And then after that, it was moving into our head office, into our recruitment center to recruit people into shops.
Okay. And what was that like from going from the shop floor, like in it, to actually going? Did someone come and pinch you, or in your head were you thinking, oh, actually, I want to be moving on? Like, what was the process behind that?
I kind of thought to myself, I want to be moving on. I wasn't sure if I was ready to become a general manager of a Pret shop, because that is a big task.
Right.
You get trained for it.
What
But
is that? What is that like, by the way? And what made you think it wasn't for you?
at the time, it wasn't for me. So what's it like running a Pret shop? Being a general manager of a Pret shop is a big responsibility, but it's a great one. And when you get trained for it, it's quite an easy thing to do, because when you start at the bottom, everything you learn on your way up that ladder prepares you to be a general manager. You're in charge of a team. So I'll give you an example. Some of our shops, general managers will have two assistant managers, one front of house, one kitchen, and then below them, they'll probably have a team of 25 people. When you're the general manager, you're in charge of the whole shop. You're in charge of 30 people's careers. That's a normal Pret size shop. Where are they going to develop to? What learning are they going to do? What course are they going to do next? We have all the pathways written, but you need to make sure that the right people are going into the right places. What's our stock like? Who's in charge of ordering? What's the finances of the shop like? Who's in charge of the profit and loss?
Mm.
So there's a lot that you're responsible for, and you have to report to your operations manager, who's looking after 15 shops, and give them all the answers. It is a lot of responsibility and a lot of pressure. We
Okay.
have the
And
right food to sell.
so I understand maybe why you wouldn't have wanted to go down that high pressured role, for
No, at the
example.
time I wasn't ready for it, just because
Mm.
that time of my life I was doing a few different things outside of work, like I was moving house, I was getting settled in with a girlfriend back then who is now my wife, and we were looking at certain things. To be a Pret manager, it is a lot of commitment, and you have to be determined to be successful, and it does require a lot of focus. And at that time, I thought, I'm not sure if I'm ready yet. But then I saw an opportunity to go and work in the recruitment center, which I thought was an amazing opportunity, because I've always loved doing recruitment. So when I worked at Starbucks, you have to do your own recruitment, and I used to love doing it. And I thought I'd give that a go, because it was supposed to be a 3 month secondment. It was just a 3 month
Right.
contract.
Okay.
I ended up doing it for a year and a half, because I got the job permanently.
And now that's your role with your team, looking after making sure you get
Yeah.
young talent coming in through the
Yeah.
apprenticeship route.
Yeah, so again, I've grown up more higher now, so I don't look after team members. I look after apprentices who will join as team members, and look after managers. So that's kind of been the natural progression to just get higher and higher.
Fantastic. Okay, we'll be going half an hour now, guys. So if there are any questions from any students, please do put your hand up, or if you don't want to speak out loud, type them into the Q&A box. If there are any questions around whether that's the university route that Max went down, the fact that he didn't go and take his masters, what was the decision-making process behind that, and how he's been developing his career so far. I guess one question I'd have, Max, is like, to be a good manager then. So what advantage do you think it is from starting as, an apprentice or a graduate, that entry level? What sort of skills does it give you? Basically what I'm trying to say here is you started off in hospitality as a young kid.
Yeah.
And then now you're in hospitality managing people. How has that sort of helped you become who you are today as a manager?
Well, when you start at the bottom, you start to do the job. You do the bottom job. When you're the manager, you need to understand what the bottom person in your shop's doing. Because if you don't understand what they're doing, you can't provide them the right training or the right environment to be able to succeed. That doesn't mean that every manager has to have done the lowest level job. No. When you start as a young person to do an apprenticeship and work your way out, you're learning all the foundational skills in terms of working as a team. You're learning about yourself as well. What are you capable of? What are you capable of with your team alongside you and on your own? When you work in a Pret shop, for example, you learn about all of the food, you learn how to produce all of it, you learn how to sell it. You learn things about how to communicate with customers, how to communicate with your team, You learn about the legal side of food, health, and safety preparations, what you need to do with your food to keep it within the law and to operate within the law. That gives you confidence. That's one of the things that it does. It gives you confidence because you do it day after day. You become so used to doing it and it becomes second nature. And then you're like, okay, so I know what I'm doing. And literally that can be taken and moved to any other business. Because when you talk about working in a team, when you work in a team in a shop, let's say there's 6 of you in the kitchen working to produce 1,000 products in a day, you'll work together. Those principles still remain if you go into another business, even if it's not producing food, because you still have to work with people together. How do you talk to them? How do you communicate with them? How do you resolve conflict? That's a big one because you will have disagreements and you need to understand how to resolve those disagreements. But then you get also the respect of other people. So then you can work your way up to the next level, which would be to lead the team. You learn how to lead a team of people. What's their weaknesses? What's your weaknesses? What's their strengths and what's your strengths? And how do you bring them together to make the team successful? And how do you have those conversations about where does the next person want to go and develop to? And also, where do you want to go and develop to? You learn all of those things that then when you become an assistant manager, you'll be able to look at your team below you and say, I know that this person is strong in this, so I'm going to need to support them in the areas where they're weak. That's a really big thing because when you're a manager, you don't do, you support. You're the background. Your team does all the doing. You just help them you give them the best possible environment to do what they need to do and to succeed. And that means that you have to really lay the foundations for them. You need to know what they are capable of and how to make them more capable of and how to train them.
And what I'm really getting from you, Max, is the personal skills that you've had through working hard and starting early in your work life. And it just shows that, when you do get into management, it just sounds to me like that's so important. Could you just briefly touch on, because there's one or two questions around the apprenticeship route, because now as a young person, forget Pret or whether it's anyone else, but for Pret as the example for today, you can start as an apprentice and then actually just talk through the training and qualifications you get, because you can go all the way up to like a degree level at Pret now, can't you?
Totally,
and I've just been asked, how many apprenticeships do Pret offer? A number of students, how many? About 100 a year, is it also, Max? Or
we're aiming for 150, but the way that we've started to structure it now is rather than doing it between June and September, we're recruiting apprentices all year round. So whenever somebody is ready to apply to our apprenticeship, once we reopen after this period of coronavirus, then they can apply anytime that they like. We're not going to put a limit on the number because we will always have vacancies in Pret shops because there's a lot of them. We have 12,000 people working in Pret in the UK. So there's no real number. I mean, we're looking to employ 150 to 200 this year. But if we have more, we've got the money to do it. We'll take more on. If there's possibilities and people who want to apply, we'll take more.
And just talk us through that learning qualification. So let's say I'm really driven. I don't want to be in an office all day. I want to come and work somewhere a little bit more exciting where I can use my personable skills.
Yeah.
Where could I go with that?
So like when if you come to do an apprenticeship at Pret, you'll go and work in one of our shops, especially if you're a good personable person. The front of the house area is great for you because you're working with customers, you're working with your team to provide an environment for your customers to come into. So you're hosting them. You have to your shop is a hosting area for people to come in, feel comfortable, that they can ask questions about your product and that they can have a great experience, have a bit of chit chat. What you'll notice when you work in hospitality is that the majority of your customers are repeat customers. You get to know them. Chris, you go to the same Pret every time?
Do you know what? I don't, because I'm always in and around the city.
Oh,
but
I suppose you are, aren't you?
Yeah. But I do have my preferred ones.
Yeah. So you do, and you probably know the staff there. So when you work in Pret, you're kind of lucky because if you're not so much of a personal person, but you really want to get on in life and you want to learn the skills that's going to make you work in a team and give you a career to progress to be a manager or even a CEO if you want. Pret is a great place because you can work in the kitchen and still learn those skills, but not have to always be in front of the public. Or you can work at the front of the house and really learn those skills. How do you interact with different customers from different nations who might not speak English but still need the same advice?
And then in terms of qualification, university, what does Pret offer apprentices in terms of qualifications?
So you can do the level 2, which is a hospitality certificate, which is valid across the whole hospitality industry. It's a professional qualification, and that would be your entry level. And then when you move on to level 3, that would be when you become a team leader. So your level 2 is where you're working in shops, serving customers, making sandwiches, making coffees. Level 3, you move up, which is also Pret's career path as well. People who join Pret at the team member level at level 2 normally become a leader within 18 to 24 months. We've noticed that people who join our apprenticeship scheme are going on to become a leader sort of within 12 months, so quicker, because your learning is directed towards accelerating your career through. When you become a team leader, you're leading either the team front of house or back of house. Those are really invaluable skills, because when you're leading a team, you're in charge of them. They're looking to you in terms of, what am I supposed to be doing? How do I role model myself? What is the example that is being set for me? But how do we work as a team? You're the captain, okay? And to learn those skills, it is about how do you give feedback to people who don't do their job right because they just need the right direction. They're making mistakes because they don't know the right way. So you now need to step in and show them the right way. Where do they want to go with their career? You need to have those conversations with them. Do they want to progress to the next level or not? Or are they happy doing what they're doing? But then also you need to be able to reply to your manager, why is my kitchen not producing enough sandwiches quickly enough? Well, because maybe we need more support, or I need to train people better.
Yeah,
you have
okay.
to learn those difficult conversations. You get to do that with your level 3 hospitality supervisor certificate, which is great, which is then transferable to other businesses, which then prepares you to become an assistant manager and join our level 4, which is the first step on the degree. So it's a business management degree, not equivalent. It is a BA in business management, and the level 4 is the first year.
Great. So you can get a degree level qualification without paying for it. I love that.
Without paying for it. That's the important part.
Right.
We pay for it, and we pay you at the same time to do it. You get a full salary.
It just, it sounds like a no-brainer if you're that sort of person who wants that type of career. I'm getting behind on questions. So, Thanis, what were you most scared of when walking into your first day as assistant manager? Good question.
That was quite a few years ago. So what was I most scared of? Back then, I was probably scared of making mistakes. That was what I was scared of, making mistakes and looking like a fool. But then I learned pretty quickly, and now I'm totally of the opinion that making mistakes is absolutely essential. You will make them. You can't avoid mistakes. You will make them, but the whole point of making a mistake is to learn. It's more important how you learn from your mistake rather than the mistake that you made. If you don't learn from it and adjust your behaviors or your methods, then you're not moving.
And it's a good thing to talk about in an interview, isn't it? Max, the mistakes you've made and what you've learned from.
Totally. Because you will always make mistakes. I also made mistakes in my career and maybe took decisions that weren't great for me, but they've actually helped me in the long run to get to where I am now doing what I love. And of course it's great because you are human. Nobody doesn't make mistakes. Everybody makes mistakes. So the other thing I was probably most scared of on my first day was what my team thought of me or what they would think of me, how to create a great impression.
Yeah, which is everybody. It's every human, right?
Totally.
I suppose. I've got a question here. Should we create a LinkedIn account now? How useful is it if I don't have a job yet? Yes. Well, my answer to that is yes. Get a LinkedIn account now and add both myself and Max. We'll send around our LinkedIn profiles or names so you can search us after this webinar. How useful is it if I don't have a job, Max? LinkedIn.
Do you know what? I'd say it's still very useful because of the things that you learn and the connections that you make. It's not about having a job. So in terms of like a LinkedIn account?
Yeah. I mean, I use it a lot. Do you use it much in your network?
Yeah, totally valuable. Because I think if you don't have a job, it gives you the opportunity to see the types of jobs that are available. And also people like Chris and I, we will put stuff and content out onto LinkedIn so you get to start to see companies. What are they like? Are they the kind of company that you want to work for? Or are they the kind of company you don't want to work for? If you look at a company's content that's in your area that you're interested in and you find it boring, don't go and work for them because they're probably not the right one for you. Yeah,
definitely. Make sure you do have a look onto our LinkedIn workshop that we did a couple of weeks ago that basically says, how to set it up and what you should be looking out for. That's quite a good one to look back on. Here we go. My future lies ahead in America. It seems very clear, which I had a better evaluation in terms of salary and the job I'm hugely interested in. So over in America, what steps do you think I need to take? I need to take work. Sorry, this isn't written in the best English. What steps do you think I need to take work my way up to
my dream work location in America?
Yeah, there we go. We got there in the end. What would you make from that, Max, that question? If we can maybe try and rephrase that. What steps do you think I need to take to get to my dream location and go and work in New York? Maybe actually ask us and go into a bit more detail. So put your hand up and I'll let you speak. I think that might be a better way of doing it, just so we can get into the detail there.
Can I give a little? Can I give
Yeah,
a little
yeah.
bit
If you've
around
got
it?
something, yeah, please.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't know why your future career lies ahead in America. Is it because you want it to, or because you're going to move there? What I would say is be careful. And I will be honest, my wife is American, so I have family in America. In England, we're very fortunate. You might say that the salary might be better in America, but they're not as well protected in terms of workers' rights as we are here in the UK. So currently, my company, Pret, is paying me 100% of my salary to stay home, stay safe, and not do any work. I am not working. 100% salary. Some of my family in America work for a large department store. They've been sent home, no pay, no work, no pay. So they have to stay on leave, but they're not getting a single penny or cent, whatever you want to call it. So there's good things about America. You might get more salary, but then there's other things in the UK which we're much better at. And we're very good at promoting people for what they're valuable for or what they're worth rather than who they know.
No, yeah, well said, Max. And a couple more questions here. By the way, I'm not going to ask any more questions, so we'll wrap up soon. Unless you do want to put your hand up, we haven't had anyone speak yet, which is disappointing, guys. You've got to give me one question. Can you join at level 4, 5, or 6? That's for the apprenticeship. I'm guessing this person doesn't want to join at level 2. You might want to give us a bit of knowledge around that, Max, because sometimes people overlook level 2s, don't they?
Some people will overlook level 2. You can't join at level 4, 5, and 6 as an external. Internally in Pret, we already have people who are assistant managers or managers. We have offered it to them that they can start at level 4, 5, and 6, but they've already done their time at Pret. Over 80% of our managers in Pret started as team members. So there is a definite career path in Pret, and the majority of our managers all started as a team member on the bottom rung of the ladder and worked their way up. And they've all been successful because of the training that we've provided them all the way through and the things that they've learned all the way through. Level 2 is a foundation. It's really important because if I was 17 or 18 and I wanted to go straight in at level 4, I would struggle. Anybody would struggle because if you've just come out of the education system and not really had a work background, you will struggle because it is a very difficult job to do. Doing those foundations of level 2 and level 3 really set you up to get to level 4, 5, and 6. It may seem like it's a longer path, which is something that Chris and I talked about. It is a longer path, but as somebody who recruits managers into Pret, if you put in front of me a 21-year-old person who started at Pret at 16 and did level 2, level 3, and was thinking of going on to level 4, or you gave me somebody who came out of university at 21 without having worked full time in the hospitality industry, but had a BA in business management, I would give the job to the person who'd worked in Pret and worked their way out, or even not just Pret, had worked in the hospitality industry, working their way out over the person who has the degree. Because the person who has the degree has the theoretical knowledge, but has never really applied it in practice. It's a very harsh thing to say, but it's true. Whereas somebody who has worked their way out, they have actually had the practice, they've done the job.
Yeah, it's so interesting. And that's why pathway, like I went to university and like I'll probably do it again because I loved all the sports, but I just think it's so important that young people understand all the options available to them, because people like Max, who are in charge of doing that, say things like that, which is so important.
Can I
yeah.
ask you a question though, Chris?
Yeah.
Like you say you do university again because you love the sports. Okay. But then I'll play devil's advocate because I love university also because of the sports. But then if I was a 17, let's say I was an 18 or 19-year-old person who had a full-time job earning, I don't know, let's call it 25 grand a year. Yeah. I'd have the money in my pocket to be able to go and do the sports as well, because sports doesn't just exist in university. There are clubs and outside of university where you can still build that camaraderie. I've got my old boys club from old Wimbledonians from Wimbledon College. I can go and play football or rugby for them if I want.
Yeah, no, and you've got me there, to be fair, Max. It was a blasé comment. I mean, but I did go to a sports uni and I literally trained like a professional athlete there. Okay, I wouldn't have been able to do that in a full-time job. But if it was just maybe more social sport or maybe something a little bit different, yeah. But then would I pay £55,000 to go do it? If that was my decision, that'd be very hard to make, because I just look at the taxes that you get. Trying to get onto the housing market, it just means it's so much harder for like our generation than it is like, our parents who could buy a house at £20,000, had no student debt. But so with that in mind, yeah, I would definitely look at apprenticeships. If I'm mature enough, I would probably go down that route, but I'd be pretty gutted that I'd be missing out on the sport. It'd be a bit unfair is what I would think. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. But no, it's an interesting one, isn't it? Right, two more questions here. What if you're really passionate about a certain career path, but the working hours are too long? What should you do, Max? Good question.
If you're really passionate about a certain career path, but the working hours are too long, what should you do? Uh, I would say
Oh,
if you're passionate about it, the hours are never too long because you
cool.
love it. it the thing about life is to find what really excites you, what really burns a fire inside of you. I can tell you now, sitting in an office and doing finance did not burn a single match inside me, let alone a fire. But sometimes I work long hours. Sometimes I work 60-hour weeks doing what I do. And I travel a lot around London to go to different places to present about Pret. And I still have to look after my apprentices as well. That 60 or 70 hours, you feel it, especially at my age, but you don't because you love it so much. So when you
Right.
have a passion, the hours are never too long because you love what you do.
Yeah, that's very well said for someone who loves their job. Thank you, Max. I've got two more questions here, unless there's anyone else who wants to put their hand up. Does the apprenticeship have to be an alternative route to university, or can I do it alongside with university or after?
It has to be an either or. You can't do an apprenticeship and be at university. Because an apprenticeship is a full-time job and studying at the same time. So 80% of your time is doing your work and 20% is off the job studying. But the 80% of the work that you do is the theoretical stuff, is putting into practice the theoretical stuff that you would learn. So you're doing it. You can't then do a degree. No human would be able to do a degree and an apprenticeship side by side because you're doing a full-time job and a full-time degree. Not possible.
And but Max, at Pret, don't you guys don't you go up to university as part of your degree? Don't you go up and
You
then come
do.
back down and work? Yeah.
So you wouldn't be a university student. Well, you
No.
would be a university student, but it's the way that it's taught is different because you're doing the degree and you're doing the job at the same time. A lot of the learnings that you do. So I'll give you an example. You're an assistant manager and you're on our degree apprenticeship program. You are enrolled at university, but as an assistant manager, a lot of your job is to plan your rotas, to plan your business, okay? But certain parts of it would be your general manager's responsibility. And that would be, let's say you're doing level 4 as the assistant manager, that would be the stretch. So your next step would be to be a general manager. You would be working towards doing those things that your general manager does. So if you're doing the degree apprenticeship with Pret, you'd then be saying to your manager, what is it that you do that is your responsibility that I can learn? And you would take them over from your manager and you'd start to learn the next role ahead of you. And that's why it gets you there quicker. But that's also part of the degree that you learn. So you're putting it into practice rather than sitting in a classroom and going, right, let's look at how we project the business for the next quarter. You're actually going to sit in your own shop with your manager and say, right, let's project our business, which is currently live and working, and let's project our next quarter and see what sales we're going to do, how much budget we've got to spend on labor and food and costs and stuff.
No, okay, that's good. Thanks, and thanks for that question, Thanis. What parts of work will be easier to achieve with a uni degree? Any parts of work where you think you should go to uni to try and make that bit better or perform better?
If I was to be honest, I'd say what parts of work are easier to achieve with a uni degree? There's certain jobs that are easier to achieve with a uni degree. When you look at the hospitality sector, I don't believe you need a degree to be a great manager. Um, to be an expert in finance, yeah, you need a degree because you need to go away and learn it, but you can do a degree apprenticeship with a finance company. University is very good for teaching you how to manage your own life because you do have to turn up to lectures and pass the exams at the end of the year. And I chose to stay away from home. I went as far away from home as I could so that I was away from my parents. And you learn pretty quickly that you're responsible for your own actions. So I do believe it does give you the ability to learn on your own. So when you get to later in life and you might want to change job or your next role requires you to learn, I do believe that you've got the skills to do it. But I would say that you could do that too, even if you haven't been to university.
No, definitely. And last question before a bit of a recap, guys. Are good I hate it when I just go to a question and it's not written quite properly. I think it's saying, is Pret good at balancing mental health with working?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, we are. I have to say that working at Pret, I'm very fortunate because we work hard, we play hard. We're the number one in our industry for a reason, and we're being chased down by our competitors. But we work hard, but we look after each other's mental health. So at work, for example, I get meditation sessions every Monday.
Do you?
Every 12 o'clock every Monday, we have a lady who comes in to do meditation with us.
Wow.
And even as managers and people in shops, we give them access to material to learn things about mindfulness, about meditation. We like to party as well. And partying isn't just about going out and getting drunk. Partying is about releasing stress with your friends and other people who are in your situation. So we have big parties for our shop teams, Friday night drinks. That's really good for your mental health because you work hard in shops. But why don't you go out and see each other on a different, we'll pay for you to go out and have a party, listen to some great music and get to know your work colleagues and mates. That's really important for your mental health as well. And in this situation now, Pret, in through this whole situation, are doing so much for us to be looked after, to make sure that our mental health is good, checking in on us every week, giving us the tools that we need in case we're having stress or anxiety. So yes, we work hard, we play hard, and we're very well looked after.
Sounds like a good place to work, Max. Sounds like you did well to search from the age of 26 into something that you really wanted to be passionate about doing. Sure. Just guys, in terms of my takeaways from this session, I've got here, make mistakes. It's essential to make mistakes, is what Matt's saying. You don't need a degree to be a great manager, which I think is a really interesting one because Matt's gone up to management positions and he's got a degree, but maybe he didn't need one, particularly in hospitality. So again, looking at the different sectors and is banking different from hospitality? You guys do the research and have a think about it yourself. What excites you? Again, is what Max has said. So, making mistakes, what excites you? And obviously at the age of 26 is when you started to realize you wanted to follow enjoyment rather than necessarily your bank balance.
Yeah.
Which is so interesting. Yeah. Any other questions from anyone? Do fire them across and I'll try and ask Max at another time. But Max, for now, I will let you go. We've got another session with Pret next Monday, which I'll just speak to the guys about while you're here, actually, Max. So Pret are basically doing content every single Monday over the month of April. So next Monday, we're going to have somebody else who's going to be coming in. There's a few exciting sessions that I'm thinking of doing for that, but do get involved in that, as well as the other sessions we've got planned for you for the rest of the week, which, Max, if okay with you, I'll just do a bit of a follow-up with the guys, but I'll let you go now if that's okay.
Absolutely fine. Thank you very much for everybody's time and thanks for your questions as well.
Thanks, Max. You're a legend. I'll see you soon.
See you later, Chris.
Cheers. Bye-bye. And just in terms of the admin for next steps then, guys. So tomorrow at 2:00, we've got a session on the different roles. It's actually sponsored by Cancer Research, okay? So we're looking at graduate roles, internships, apprenticeships, work experience, and like how you can get into different companies. Obviously, Cancer Research works with a variety of different companies. So it'll be good for you to get involved and hear what goes on at that charity, which will be quite exciting. So do sign up for that on Eventbrite. Also, I'm doing my Instagram live on Friday, so follow us on Instagram and ask me any like personal questions or anything like that's maybe a little bit less formal than the setting that we do on LinkedIn and the setting that we do on here, because it's Good Friday. It won't be that good a Friday for anyone because we'll all be at home probably. But yeah, hopefully, we can have a good bit of engagement there on Friday, just me and nobody else. Any other questions, let me know. If you're not signed up to the program, you don't get our emails, just drop us an email at student@pathwayctm.com. That's in the chat, and we'll make sure that you can get sent the link on how to make sure you hear from us about webinars and different things. Tomorrow, we've got the Cancer Research one at 2, and then just after that, I think it's about 3 or 4, I'm not too sure, but I'm doing a webinar with Ed Broking to find out how to get into the city and how to get into insurance. I'm really interested to know what's happening with COVID-19 on insurance companies and what types of roles that these insurers have for young people. We've got work experience with them this summer, so that will probably be in August. So we push it back to make sure that you can do it. So again, if you want work experience this summer, you're interested in the city, interested in finance or insurance, or just want to find out a little bit more and see if you love it or hate it, sign up for Ed Broking this afternoon because that one's getting quite full up. Wednesday, we've got one with Accenture, who if you're a year 13 wanting an apprenticeship and want a degree, speak to them. So come on to that. Wednesday, what else have I got? The lunchtime 2 till 3 is with the Financial Times. That'll be really cool. So we've got someone there who's like, quite an important role and what sort of roles they have at the FT. Hopefully she'll be able to announce this extra virtual sort of work experience that they're working on at the moment. So hopefully we'll get first dibs onto that, and whoever's on that webinar will get first access. Thursday, make sure if you're thinking of doing an apprenticeship or you just want to find out about it from an expert, get involved on Thursday because I've got the head of recruitment from the co-op explaining apprenticeships. explaining exactly how they work from loads of different sectors, and he's got loads of good contacts. So make sure you ask good questions for that. And then Friday, we're done, and I'm doing that Instagram live 2 till 3. So have a good week, guys. Hopefully Easter's not too boring for you, and let's see if we can help you out. Email student@pathwayctm.com if there's anything specific you want. We're making sure we get back to those emails as quick as possible. But thanks very much, and have a good rest of your day. Bye-bye.